January 14, 1995, Atlantic City, 3:17 p.m. A man walks up to a video Keno machine. He doesn't look at the screen, he looks at his watch. He waits for the exact second the internal clock aligns with a formula running on a laptop 3 floors above him. He inserts a $100 bill and presses the button. The machine draws 8 numbers: 8, 14, 27, 33, 51, 62, 74, 79. Every single number is a match. The probability of this happening is 1 in 230,000. It is a statistical miracle if you don't know the secret. But for the man standing at the machine, it wasn't a miracle, it was a math equation. He didn't hope he would win, he knew, because he wasn't playing the game. He had already beaten it before he walked in the door. Most people think casino security is about muscle. They picture big guys in suits, cameras in the ceiling, and biometric vaults. And they're right. Bellagio, MGM Grand, Caesar's Palace, they are fortresses designed to keep people out. But they have a fatal flaw, a flaw that costs billions of dollars to fix and 5 seconds to exploit. To build a fortress, you have to hire builders. To secure a software system, you have to hire coders. And in the early 1990s, the entire state of Nevada made a catastrophic mistake. They built a system that was impenetrable to the outside world, but they handed the keys to the one man they paid to lock the door. This is the story of Ronald Dale Harris, and he didn't break into the casino, he simply clocked in for work. You see, Harris wasn't a thief, at least on paper. He was a software engineer for the gaming control board. Understand the hierarchy here. In Las Vegas, the casino is God. They control the money, they control the rules, they even control the police. But above the casino, there is the gaming control board. They're the internal affairs of gambling. They are the only people allowed to open the machines, audit the code, and check the circuit boards. Their job is to ensure the casinos aren't cheating the players. To do that, they employ a select group of engineers who drive from casino to casino, opening slot machines to test the chips inside. Ronald Harris was their best engineer. He was a genius coder, precise, arrogant, and technically brilliant. He was one of only 5 people in the entire state authorized to access the source code of the slot machines. When a slot machine malfunctioned, they called Harris. When a player claimed a jackpot was rigged, they called Harris. He was the ultimate authority, the root user of Las Vegas. But Harris had a problem that plagues every smart person who works in a system designed to make other people rich. He was making $48,000 a year, fixing machines that generated $48,000 an hour. He looked at the system and he realized the security was entirely focused on the players. The cameras were pointed at the seats. The pit bosses were watching the hands. Nobody was watching the machine itself. And absolutely nobody was watching the guy with the gaming control board badge, clipping a laptop to the motherboard. So he decided to stop fixing the bugs and started installing them. Now, most criminals are crude. They try to drill the lock or they try to counterfeit the tokens. Harris was an architect. He knew that trying to physically force money out of a machine was stupid. The smart way was to make the machine want to give you the money. He started with the hardware. Inside every slot machine in the 90s was a component called an EPROM chip. This is the brain. It's a silicon wafer that tells the machine the rules of the game. It controls the lights, the sounds, and most importantly, the random number generator. When Harris went on his routine inspections, he would open the machine, run his diagnostics just like he was supposed to. But then, in a sleight of hand that would make a magician jealous, he would swap the chip. He took out the factory standard EPROM chip and replaced it with his own modified version. To the naked eye, the chips were identical. Even if another engineer looked at the code, it looked 99% the same. But Harris had inserted a subroutine, a few lines of code hidden deep in the logic. It worked like a cheat code in a video game. If you played the machine normally, it functioned perfectly. The house edge remained, the casino made money. But if you inserted coins in a very specific, unnatural sequence, a sequence nobody would ever do by accident, the logic flipped. 3 coins, 2 coins, 2 coins, 1 coin, 3 coins, 5 coins. 3, 2, 2, 1, 3, 5. Once that sequence was entered, the random number generator turned off. The machine executed a command, dump tray. It would immediately line up the 777 on the pay line and empty the hopper. Harris did this to over 30 machines across Las Vegas. He turned them into his personal ATMs. But here is where the engineering meets the friction of reality. Harris had the perfect system, but he had a logistical nightmare. He was the inspector. His face was known in every casino in Nevada. If Ronald Dale Harris sat down at a slot machine he just inspected and won a jackpot, he would be in handcuffs before the coins hit the tray. He had the gun, but he couldn't pull the trigger. He needed a proxy, someone who didn't look like an engineer, someone who could walk in, play the sequence, take the cash, and walk out. He recruited a friend and then another, and for 2 years it worked. They hit the machines for 4,000 here, 9,000 there. Small amounts, just enough to stay under the IRS reporting limit, just enough to stay invisible. But Harris was an engineer, and engineers get bored with efficiency. He started looking at the $5,000 payouts and feeling insulted. It was too slow, it was too much manual labor. He wanted to scale. He wanted the big score.
And that is when he looked at Keno. Slot machines are mechanical, they have moving parts. But Keno is pure math. It's a computer picking numbers. And Harris knew a secret about computers that most people don't understand. Computers cannot be random. It is physically impossible for a computer to generate a truly random number. They use something called a PRNG, a pseudo-random number generator. It's an algorithm. It takes a starting number, called a seed, and does a bunch of complex math to spit out a result. If you know the seed and you know the algorithm, you know the result. Harris realized he didn't need to open the Keno machines. He didn't need to swap chips. He didn't need to risk being seen with a screwdriver. He just needed to reverse engineer the algorithm. Harris built a program on his laptop. All he had to do was feed it the previous outcomes. If he told his program what the last 20 numbers were, his code could calculate where the algorithm was in the sequence. It could predict the next 8 numbers with 100% accuracy. This was God mode. He wasn't cheating the machine anymore, he was reading its mind. But Keno had higher stakes. The jackpots weren't $5,000, they were $100,000. And to claim a prize that big, you need ID, you need tax forms, you need a face. Harris couldn't use his usual proxies. He needed someone fresh, someone with no record, someone completely unknown to the state of Nevada. Enter Reed McNeil. Reed was not an engineer. He was the idiot factor. In every perfect heist, there is a variable you cannot control. You can code the software, you can rig the hardware, but you cannot code the human being holding the bag. Harris briefed Reed. The plan was simple. Harris would sit in the hotel room upstairs with his laptop, he would calculate the numbers, he would call Reed on the casino floor. Reed would buy the ticket, Reed would win, Reed would act surprised. Simple. On January 14, 1995, at Bally's Park Place in Atlantic City, the plan went into motion. Harris ran the numbers. Harris gave Reed the sequence. Reed bought the tickets, 10 of them, all with the exact same numbers. The machine drew the balls. All 8 numbers hit. The probability was 1 in 230,000. Reed McNeil had just won $100,000 instantly. And this is where the perfect system crashed into human stupidity. Imagine you just won $100,000. What do? You scream, you jump, you high-five the stranger next to you, you lose your mind. That is what a random winner looks like. Reed McNeil did none of that. He stood there, stone-faced. He looked at the ticket, then looked at the cashier and said, "I'd like my cash now, please." He looked bored. The casino manager wasn't triggered by the win. People get lucky. The manager was triggered by the reaction. Nobody wins 6 figures and acts like they are waiting for a bus. The casino stalled. They told Reed, "We need to verify the machine. It's standard procedure for a win this size." Reed shrugged. "Okay." He went back to his hotel room, room 417, where Ronald Harris was waiting. Now, a smart criminal, a criminal with street smarts, would have realized the vibe was off. They would have cut the losses and run. But Harris was trapped in his own ego. He knew the math was perfect. He knew he hadn't touched the machine. He thought, let them check. The machine is clean. The code is stock. They can't prove anything. He was relying on the logic of the system to save him. He forgot about the logic of the police. 2 hours later, there was a knock on the door. It wasn't room service. It was the New Jersey State Police. They weren't there to arrest them, not yet. They were just investigating a suspicious payout. They asked Reed for his ID. They asked him how he picked the numbers. Reed mumbled something about a lucky dream. Then the officers looked at the other man in the room, Ronald Dale Harris. "And who are you?" "I'm a friend. I work for the Nevada Gaming Control Board." The officers paused. The Nevada Gaming Control Board? In a cheap hotel room with a guy who just beat the odds on a Keno machine? Suspicion just turned into probable cause. They asked to search the room. Harris, arrogant to the end, hesitated, and that hesitation was enough. They seized his equipment. When they booted up Harris's laptop, they didn't just find the Keno algorithm. That would have been bad enough. But Harris, being a meticulous engineer, had done something only an engineer would do. He kept logs. He had a database. A list of every single slot machine he had modified in Las Vegas. Dates, times, machine ID numbers, and the exact cheat codes used to trigger them. He had documented his own felony. Why? Because engineers love data. He wanted to track his success rates. He wanted to optimize. He treated his crime ring like a startup, and his laptop was the quarterly report. The police didn't just catch a cheater. They caught the architect. The fallout was immediate and nuclear. The Nevada Gaming Control Board was humiliated. Their golden boy, the man they trusted to police the industry, had been robbing them blind for years. They had to recall hundreds of machines. They had to audit thousands of lines of code. The Harris audit became the most expensive cleanup in casino history. The prosecutors had a field day. The evidence on the laptop was irrefutable. It wasn't circumstantial. It was the source code of the crime. Harris pled guilty. He was sentenced to 7 years in prison. Reed McNeil, the man who couldn't act excited, turned state's evidence and got off light. But the legacy of Ronald Dale Harris isn't the money he stole. It's how he changed the game. Before Harris, the source code was trusted. If the seal on the chip was unbroken, the machine was considered honest. Harris proved that the seal didn't matter if the person holding the sealer was corrupt. Because of him, the industry changed its entire security protocol. Today, no single engineer has the keys to the kingdom. They use sharded keys, cryptographic splits where you need 2 or 3 different people to authorize a code change. They realize that you can't rely on trust. You have to rely on zero-trust architecture. Harris eventually got out of prison. He was banned from every casino in the world. He couldn't even walk into a 7-Eleven with a slot machine in it. So what did the genius engineer do? He didn't rob a bank. He didn't hack a server. He wrote an app. He created a gambler's evaluation program, a legitimate tool to help players analyze the odds of slot machines. He went from being the crooked cop to being the private consultant. He proved that the house doesn't always win. The house only wins because they set the rules. And if you're smart enough and arrogant enough to rewrite the rules, you can clear the board. Just don't hire a partner who looks bored when he wins $100 grand.